Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Backlot 605 podcast. Here we are in the last episode of Bat Month here on Backlot 605. We are going to be talking about Batman Begins as voted on by you out there, the listeners. You voted this over The Dark Knight. Just
Thank
because
you.
everybody talks about The Dark Knight.
Wow.
But
that's just it. Everybody talked about it. How did it not win?
Because they
I was
wanted to hear
confused about that. Yeah, I was.
They
I looked
wanted
in
to
the
hear
comments.
us.
They were kind of like, yeah, there's not as much story. So
yeah, they wanted to hear us talk about this one, I guess. Show a little love to Batman Begins, the one that started it all, and we are going to do that here today.
yes.
I am one of your hosts. I'm Casey Kelderman. Joining with me, as always, are my co-hosts Brian Mensing and Sam Lenz.
Hello.
What's up?
Boys, are you ready to begin this episode?
Yeah, I'm actually happy we're not talking about The Dark Knight. We'll get into that, but
Shut up,
I'm
Sam.
glad that
All
this
right,
one
let's
won.
get on to it. Let's
So-
get on to our guest. I am going to mute Sam at some point during this episode. I am sure. No. Yeah, I'm glad they voted this. One, because I had just watched The Dark Knight like a month ago, so I had my fix of The Dark Knight for this year. At least until I probably watch it again in another 3 months. But Batman Begins. Hadn't watched this one in a while. Very excited to talk about it. And we're going to talk about it with our guest this week. Welcoming to the show, we have Pokehon. Joe, welcome to the show.
What's
I
up?
see you repping Batman already on the podcast as well.
Yeah.
Doing better than us on this show.
Yes.
I don't have any figures of Batman in the background, so I had to wear it on the shirt at least.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm glad to be
That's the way
here.
to do it.
It's been in the making, going on the podcast because I think we were trying to shoot for some kind of Dracula one or something, and it just now we're talking about bats, Bat to Dracula. So
We're
there we
talking a different creature
we
of the
didn't
night.
venture very far.
Yeah.
go. We're talking about Twilight Boy.
We are
Shoot.
not. We are talking about an actual vampire in Christian Bale. This gentleman who does not age, but transforms his body every 2 years, either to lose every ounce of body fat or to gain 50 pounds of fat for movies. But Christian Bale is first outing as Batman here. We're gonna get into it. First of all, Joe, let's talk a little bit about Pokehon. Let's talk about your YouTube channel a bit before we get into Batman. Tell us what you do on the show. For those who are watching on our YouTube, they can see some of the stuff that you do talk about on the YouTube channel. But
yeah,
go ahead.
So I've been doing YouTube for I think anywhere from like 4 to 5 years. It started off with doing Pokemon cards, and after a while, I kind of realized that that really wasn't what I was gonna do on YouTube long term, but it was kind of my gateway into filming myself and whatnot. And for a little while, I actually did talk about movies, and then now I kind of do more of the nerd related stuff, collectibles. I do vlogs, are kind of my primary thing. I do weekly videos, amongst everything else that I'm doing. So, but it keeps me busy and I like it. It's a good hobby. Being on camera and, making a community and stuff like that. You guys know, you guys do it.
Yep.
And it's, and also I think another thing that really got me started too is that, living in this area, there's not a lot going on. So I kind of felt like I could reach out that way to a lot more people than, here. So, and it's worked out. Yeah. I mean, my channel's been going and it's been going good, and I enjoy doing it still. So
Absolutely, we enjoy watching it, and I've always been able to catch like your, I don't know, like August when you're going to Spirit Halloween for the first time, because I'm the same way of like,
oh yeah,
all right, it's past 4th of July. Where's Spirit Halloween at already? Let's go.
I know.
It's Halloween season.
Yep.
So always
Man,
looking
like,
forward to that.
it's crazy too, because like the people that work there, they're just like, yep, you're good to go. I like their environment, because one thing about making videos is like the awkwardness of filming and talking to yourself. It does look weird to people. Younger kids are, they grew up doing it, but like my generation, it seems weird. But places like Spirit, they just kind of like, yeah, do your thing, advertise us to hell. Like, we don't care. Like, we're Halloween people. So always appreciated that.
You're like, free advertising? That's just weird.
I know.
Why would
It's
you say no to
crazy.
that?
But you'd be surprised how many people are so weird about you filming their merchandise. It's like, why not? You know how much advertisement is on the internet. You know what I mean? And like
Mhm.
you can have it for free if someone goes in and films your stuff. I don't get why people are so weird about going into a store and filming, but yeah, Spirit is, you know, every year people ask me, they're like, when are you doing a Spirit video? I'm like, whenever it opens, I take the day off and I head over there with my kids and we turn on every animatronic and whatnot and go through the merchandise, and we know the people, you know, they're always really nice to us and we talk with them and whatnot. But yeah, I love Spirit Halloween. It's just, you know, there's nothing like Spirit Halloween in like the Halloween season, you know, there's just nothing.
Yep.
I mean, Christmas is kind of has its quirks to it, but nothing like a good Halloween, man.
No, we don't
Oh,
have
yeah.
like we don't have like a Spirit in various different like stores that literally pop up like when the season, you know, presents itself like we do like Spirit. I mean, that's the running joke where you see like when Gordman's closed up and whatnot, you immediately were like, as soon as you like, that's prime real estate. As soon as you know that the time's going to come, there's going to be a Spirit Halloween that is going to show up on the side of the building, you know, whatnot. You know, you don't get
Yep.
that for Christmas, but you get that for Halloween. You know, those pop-up shops all the time. It's great.
Yep. Oh yeah, by November 2nd, like the people at Spirit Halloween know me by name. They're like, "Oh, hey, it's
There
you
you go.
again." I'm like, "Yeah, what's up?" Like sometimes I go
I'm
in
like,
like
oh,
2-3 times a day because it's just like I leave and I'm like, "Ah, that's cool." And then I'm like, "You know what? No, I'm going to go back and get that other thing." And then I go like and they're like, "Didn't we just see you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you'll get used to that though."
and I don't know if you guys like collect, but now, you know, even Halloween stuff, it's like you got to be there when it drops or you never see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like that's the thing that
absolutely.
was been crazy these last couple of days with, or the last couple of years with the pandemic, is it's like everybody's grabbing everything they can right now, you
Yep.
know,
Yeah.
and it's Halloween now too, man. They're coming in and grabbing it all and throwing it on eBay, man. I missed out on a lot of that killer clown stuff, man, like the guns and
Yep.
everything. I was like,
I
pretty
didn't
pissed,
pull the
man.
trigger on the cotton candy gun, and I regretted it every day since. I'm like, damn it.
Man, I wanted to
remember-
just see it.
Oh,
Yeah,
did
and
yeah?
as I
I was
say-
literally like in the aisle, like playing with it one time because I'm like, oh,
I
this
was
is
going to
so
say, I
cool.
didn't
And
even
then, like,
see the gun. Sam, why didn't you buy
No.
it? Come on.
I
I blame
know.
Sam. I blame Sam.
I was
money.
I was broke, and it was like $40, and I was like, I just can't do that right now. I'll come
You
back
should
next
have reached
week
out
after
to me.
get
I would have got
paid.
it.
Well, hopefully this upcoming year they bring back killer clowns. Maybe throw in a little chopping mall stuff at Spirit
Oh
Halloween.
my
Hello,
God, yes.
let's get
Get
some
me a
kill bots in the
life-size
store.
killbot.
I
Yeah,
think though they're doing really well with the killer clowns. I heard as a rumor that they were going to try to do another character as an animatronic, you know, which I think they should, because they all sound the same, you know what I mean? So all you got to do is just construct the body, you know. And they already have like the full costumes, even the mask they came out with this year for the killer clowns. They all look great. Like if they put something inside of them, I think those would work pretty well too.
Oh yeah,
So
I have the shorty mask and it's incredible. Like the sculpt on that thing is just nuts.
I have the shorty
I love it.
animatronic, dude.
Did you? Nice.
Yeah, it's in my son's room. My son, like, he's obsessed with it. And when he watched the movie, he was I don't know if he's so much into the movie. It's just like kids love horror these days. Like, you know, the Five Nights at Freddy's and like all types of stuff, man. They really get them into horror. Like, I'm like, dang, that's crazy.
I'll ask because we have a Sam from Trick or Treat animatronic in our house, and he scares the shit out of me every time I open the door and see him standing there. Does the clown do that to you every once in a while?
No, because like it's too cartoony. You know what I mean? It doesn't appear like anything like I could see. I mean, even Sam really. I don't know if, but do you have him unmasked or masked?
No, he's masked. It's just the fact that there's something like
something
5
there,
foot, 5 foot tall standing there that I'm not used to standing in that corner.
I have like this tiny little. Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I remember like the day Casey got it, he texted me a picture. He's like, dude, I've walked past this thing like 3 times and jumped every time.
I even knew I put it there.
We have like this little animatronic zombie, and I used to have it down here, but I was gonna go put it in the garage. and we put it in like the base of the stairway, and my wife kept seeing it and she was getting freaked out by it. But the clown, it's just with the clown, I don't know. It's not, most of the animatronics have like a creepiness to them. The killer clowns are not creepy looking.
No.
So it's like, it's actually just kind of like, seeing Ronald McDonald every day in my son's room, you know what I mean? It's got that smile and like cheesy look to it, but no, it doesn't really freak me out. And like, I would think that he'd be scared of it, in his room with the lights off, but no, it's too like cartoony for him to be scared of, I guess. So
Clearly he did
Yeah,
not
I'd
have
actually
to
say
fear
Ronald
clowns.
McDonald. Ronald McDonald is scarier than any of the killer clowns. Like,
and he's killed more
Ronald
people than the
McDonald.
killer clowns.
right?
How many heart attacks has Shorty made?
Just a surprise pizza.
Yeah.
And knocking someone's block off.
Yeah.
Ronald has not done that yet.
I think that was an instant death, though.
And one of the best scenes of that entire movie.
I know. And then Jason knocked that off, man. Remember when he dukes that dude in Manhattan?
Yep.
Yeah.
He does the same thing, man.
And Jason takes a boat ride
favorite
to
scene.
Manhattan. Yeah.
Oh, Jason takes me
To Canada.
Great, buddy. There is an electric guitar kill. He punches a dude's head off. Like, those two scenes alone are worth it. Like, I love that movie. I do.
Yeah, I can deal with that one, but I'm not a fan of Jason Goes to Hell, though. That's the one I don't know what it is. It's like the body swapping.
That's the only one I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, you're not missing much.
Mm-hmm.
Other than the scene at the end, which is like
the Freddy glove.
Yeah.
And it is implying that Jason's a Deadite, and they use like the Kandarian dagger in the movie, and I don't know. It's a weird movie. It's not very good though.
Yeah. And there's something like with that whole like trio where like Bruce Campbell doesn't even mess with those comics or nothing, where they were trying to build like a story for it, for them all to come together. There's something where like he won't even sign comics from like that story that they were writing for that. So I don't know.
Yeah.
The chin's leaving it alone. Let's talk about a different chin though. Batman's chin hanging out in Batman Begins, 2005. This movie came out in summer 2005. Obviously, like we said at the top of the show, the big movie out of this trilogy that everybody still talks about to this date is The Dark Knight. But we're going to go back to the film that really started it all, the one that kind of revitalized Batman into pop culture after Batman and Robin came out and was not necessarily a financial
incredibly
flop.
Misunderstood.
Yeah. Sure, that is one way of putting it. Yeah, it's a nice way of putting it. Incredibly misunderstood, mishandled maybe too. But they left a nearly decade-long break in Batman live action form, only to have Mr. Christopher Nolan, who was fresh off, what was right before this? Memento and Insomnia was right before this.
Yeah.
Before he gets
Insomnia.
Batman Begins. Very interesting to see how Nolan goes from kind of this indie darling when that was kind of really coming into the limelight in the mid to late 90s, and then Memento really kicking that off into his career. But like, as Warner Brothers, as a big studio, they had to have seen a lot of potential in Nolan to pick this movie up and be the guy they're like, yeah, you're gonna reboot Batman for us and then make $1 billion for the next 2 movies
and turn him into the golden boy he thinks he is.
Yeah. Where's Warner Brothers cash cow now? Moved over to Universal. Yeah, man, I love this movie. Did you guys? Okay, so this movie came out. I was 12. Yeah, because it came out in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember it coming out. I remember not going and seeing it in theaters because it was a PG-13, and I was going to those by myself at that point, but I was also it was more of if my parents took me type of thing. And my friends weren't into superhero movies, so I never saw this in theaters. I actually didn't see this until after The Dark Knight, which I did see in theaters opening weekend. and it blew my mind. And I was like, oh man, like I gotta watch the first one. And I went back and watched this one, and like if you guys saw my letterbox, you know I like this one the best out of this entire trilogy. I don't know. This movie just like, I think part of it is it feels more Batman-ish than the other two in the Nolan trilogy. I've always loved Scarecrow, and like just Scarecrows in general have always been like a big thing for me. So the fact that the Scarecrow was like a main antagonist of this movie really got me. And you've got the scenes of him riding a horse and everything in the third act, and there's just like there's something about this one that just connects with me in a way that the Dark Knight doesn't. I think the Dark Knight might be a better movie, but I like this one more. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think, especially going into this movie, is the first time, as somebody who grew up with all of those and did get to go see this in the theaters, you know, the anticipation of a new Batman, one that seems a lot more grounded, but also the first time we actually have new villains that we have never seen before. Nobody that hasn't been recycled before, somebody to go, oh, I have a reason why I want to go see this, because, you know, in terms of when I was reading comics as a kid and whatnot, I was more on the Superman side. So I was familiar with Scarecrow, but not like in depth to know and what his character really is, to be able to finally get an opportunity to be able to see, okay, I'm not going to see another version of a Joker. I'm not going to go see, you know, something that's already been done. Give me somebody new. And I mean that, and for example of Ra's al Ghul, I didn't know even idea who that even was at the first place. So it was nice to be able to have a different spin on a franchise that everybody knew, but was grounded and with characters that we get to finally get to be introduced to.
Yeah. I would 100% agree with that. I think with like Ra's al Ghul, this was my introduction to that character, and then I watched Arrow later, and like they had him in a storyline, and I figured out that you actually like they pronounce it wrong in this one because it's actually like Ra's al Ghul, or maybe they pronounce it wrong in Arrow. I don't know. I have no idea. But I do love like that you get more of the mob side. You get Ra's al Ghul. Like these are things like this movie explores things in the Batman lore that like none of the other movies ever have. You know, you have like Falcone and you have Maroni, and it really like dives into the intricate like web of criminals in Gotham, as opposed to just, oh, there's a madman on the loose, that kind of was what the previous Batman movies had all been, you know?
Yeah, I have a similar like experience with this movie too as Sam. Like I didn't see it in theater. I'm not sure how old you are, but I'm sure I'm a little bit older. But yeah, until the Dark Knight came out, I feel like this kind of went under the radar for me as a kid because like I don't really remember it being in theater, but I really remember the Dark Knight because you know that's when they did those shootings. Remember? So they were like it was kind of like, you know, there was that going on. So that really it kind of heightened people to go out and see the movie too. Cause they're like, what's going on? Like, this is crazy, you know? But yeah, I like this movie because it spends time giving you these ideas and then fleshing them out, you know, like a lot of what he learns from certain things, like you see it pay off, you know, like a lot of what's presented pays off at the end. You know what I mean? Like what he wants to be, like how he becomes it, and then like how he executes it, you know, it's all within, like, even as a standalone film, if this never went on to do The Dark Knight, like I feel like most of everything that's in this kind of got resolved, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a similar thoughts as Sam does on this movie compared to The Dark Knight, but like as far as like my history with this movie, it's kind of weird. I don't remember this movie ever coming out until like I was getting into superhero movies in like 2010 I was starting to get back into it in high school. But I don't remember any marketing for this movie at all. I remember marketing for The Dark Knight. I didn't see that one in theaters either, but I was still watching superhero stuff in 2005 because like Spider-Man 3, I vividly remember like, oh my God, I need to see that movie. And that's 2 years after this. For some reason, Batman Begins just flew literally under the radar of anything, me knowing anything about this movie until, you know, after The Dark Knight. But yeah, going back and watching this movie, numerous times now. Like I said, I have the same feeling as Sam as I think this is probably, if you're gonna ask like core definition of who Batman is as a character and what's a great Batman story,
Yeah.
this might be the best example of that. It's not my favorite, but I think
Yeah.
it's the best example of a Batman movie where it does go into the character of, at least in live action. I still think Mask of the
Yeah.
Phantasm is like the
Yeah.
peak Batman movie. But in terms of live action, this does everything you kind of want out of a Batman movie while telling his origin story. Now we've seen that origin story so many times since then, where this one really just got it right and kind of got it down to its core elements of what makes it so great and telling Batman's origin story.
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad, at least we don't need to get into it, but like the Matt Reeves one gives the origin story, but like we don't need to see every part of it. It basically
Right.
lets us as an audience, yeah, you guys know what the hell happened. Let's move on and tell a different story. Whereas this one does a good job of just exploring every part of the origin where no other Batman movie needs to. And it does such a damn good job. And it is such a fun Batman movie too, which I think a lot of people forget in hindsight, with The Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises really being like, those are the two grounded movies in this series, where this one's like the Batmobile's driving on top of buildings. Like,
Yeah.
he
the
summons
Tumblr
bats.
is awesome.
Yeah. The
the
nice
Tumblr's
coat
amazing.
line and like everything with I don't know. There's so much humor in this movie, and it's not like the Marvel type of like obvious zingers and that stuff. It's a little more subtle than that. But like I was surprised on rewatch how many times I like actually
Chuckled.
laughed at this movie.
I think too, you know, with this one, another thing that I really like is as well is like it starts off showing you the relationship between Bruce and Alfred, and I think at Batman's core, like that's his way to be between both of the Batman and Bruce Wayne, you know, and if it's not strong, then like there's a disconnect, you know, even with, you know, the newest Batman, you know, we didn't really get as much Alfred to see their relationship, but, you know, because he does get injured in the movie, you know, then you kind of get that like moment where you get that they're really close. But I mean, with this, I don't know if it was just like the actor, but I really felt the Alfred in this one, like really truly cared about not only just Batman and Bruce Wayne, but the legacy, you know, and like, and keeping with him, like, you know, his parents, you know, throughout his life, you know, just kind of having like what they would be or what they would think, you know. And also I thought another thing that was kind of interesting to see with this one too is that, you know, Bruce goes to kill the people that killed his parents, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a little different side that we've ever seen. You know, it was more serious, you know, like if he would have gone through with it, if Falcone didn't get him knocked off, you know, he potentially would have killed Chills or whatever, and then he would have thrown his life away. You know what I mean? So I think that's an interesting thing because you could see he was battling, you know, vengeance too, because, you know, when he was with the League of Shadows, right? You know, he was going to have to execute somebody, you know, to show his loyalty, you know. He still kind of has that temptation with what he was dealing with too. So you could see it wasn't like cut dry, you know what I mean? Like what he actually felt, because he still had like that want to, you know, have like true justice, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think especially like the courtroom scene in particular is such a tense moment, and it's tense from a very character-driven standpoint. It's tense because you know that there is turmoil inside of Bruce, and you really like until that scene ends, you don't know what's gonna happen. My favorite shot is when you have the shot of Chill, and then everybody in the background, and the judge says like, and there is a member of the Wayne family here, and he stands up in the background, and you're just like, oh, and shit, even like what's he gonna do there, you know?
Yeah, and I feel like Chills was there too, and he's like, oh, you know, like he wasn't expecting that. He wasn't expecting to be there, and he's like giving like, oh, I've changed everything, and I think in his like, I feel like he didn't think he actually changed, you know what I mean? So it's like, oh crap, man, like this guy's here, and like I think he was scared, you know, too, because he's like, oh my god, I'm like giving my testimony, and like the kid, you know, that seen me shoot his parents is here, you know. So, that was a really good scene.
he doesn't even turn around to look at Bruce, and I think that's kind of what I noticed in that is that someone who I didn't remember that was in this movie, Richard Brake, who plays Joe Chill, who is incredible in pretty much everything that he shows up in. He shows up in a lot of Rob Zombie movies, especially, but he's really great in the two scenes that he has here, and just the kind of facial expression of like Sam was saying, when they announce that there's a member of the Wayne family here, he kind of like sits back in his seat a little bit and he's like, oh, but like doesn't turn around when Bruce stands up where everybody else is kind of looking at Bruce. He doesn't. And I think that's, I don't know, maybe a turning point for Bruce of this guy's not even going to give me the light of day after what he did to my parents. Yeah, I'm going to go kill him.
Yeah, like he's like not truly sorry. That's kind of what I meant. Like, yeah, he was saying it, but like he didn't expect there to be like that. Oh, there's actually someone here from that night, you know?
Yep.
So
absolutely. Yeah, that whole courtroom sequence right up to the assassination is so powerful in that sense. And then the follow-up with him driving with Rachel and him revealing his initial intention. And I just love, like, a lot of people rag on Katie Holmes in this movie, and I genuinely like.
She's good in this movie.
Yeah, I think she's really good. I love the slap and then the delayed,
I do too.
The silence, and then the second slap, like she's just thinking about it again, and she's like, "No, what the fuck?" And just like boom, like again, because like one just isn't enough.
And that's also what I like too. You know, like I said with Alfred, it's with Rachel too. Like, you know, like. He doesn't get it until it's like literally slapping him in the face saying, you know, your dad would be disappointed if he knew you avenged my death like this. You know what I mean? And it's funny. She just drives him over there and drops his ass off and like, get the out.
Yeah. Like in the worst part of the city in the mob run bar. She's like, I don't care. Get out. And it's like, damn, like Rachel takes no shit in this movie. And I love that. I think, I
love
really
the homeless
wish that
guy's
Katie
like,
Holmes
you should have
hadn't
tipped
done
him
that one
better.
for the money, maybe. And then
nice
just
coat.
the homeless guy is my favorite thing. Like where he gives him the coat, and then later in the shipyard, just, nice coat. And he goes off on his grappling hook.
That is a nice coat.
One
and
thing
then that line where he's like, "Are people look?" Or like, he's like, "Why are you giving this to me?" He's like, "People are gonna come looking for it." And he's like,
what?
Everyone. It's like Bruce Wayne is such a dramatic bitch in this movie.
This movie does, I think, the best job of kind of portraying the two sides of Bruce Wayne in kind of the most best sense of both, of where Alfred has to basically tell him, like, yeah, people are going to start asking questions if you're waking up at 3:00 in the afternoon and have bruises all over your body every single day. You need to learn how to balance between being a billionaire playboy who dates models and buys things that aren't for sale. What does he do the next scene? He goes to a hotel restaurant with two supermodels and buys things that are not for sale in the most cheeky, like Patrick Bateman. I
was about to say,
Bale performance in this movie.
Such American Psycho vibes in this.
Which is one of the reasons why I think he was perfect for this role, because coming off of American Psycho, the role that some people said was going to kill his career, you know, going into this and giving some of those Jason Bateman vibes as
made a classic.
Agreed. But, you know, coming into this American Psycho, like, you picture the Bruce Wayne, you're like, he cleans up well and whatnot. And how is he going to balance that aspect of, he can clearly play very elegant and elevated and whatnot, but at the same time, too, he knows that he can be very dark in the process.
And the thing I really like about that scene, too, is as he's walking out, he has to tell Rachel that's not who he really is, because he's like putting on a persona. And she's like, I don't even think you're that guy anymore. Like, you might have him somewhere in there, but you're not him anymore. So like I said, there's like a lot of moments like that just really connect with this movie, which I really like.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, they pay off in the third act too, like where Rachel says to him in that moment, she's like, like, it's not what you say. It's not like what you feel. It's what you do that defines you as a person. And
And then when he says it,
repeats
it's
that
like,
line to
that's
her.
too long. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But it's funny because his voice is like completely different. Like, because he has to say like
Yeah.
a complete sentence with that like voice. And
It's-
it's like, that doesn't sound good.
It's what you do that matters.
It's what you do.
And he saves, and you guys notice he
that's-
saves Joffrey, man. And it's like, dude, that kid's gonna be a pain here soon, man.
That kid's gonna kill so many people.
He
I
got
know.
inspired by Ra's al Ghul in this movie.
I know, right? I did really like them showing like how he got his training. You know what I mean? Because that was something that I feel like wasn't really explored, and I definitely love like the ninja aspect of their training too. You know, like I feel like all their scenes, even just having Liam Neeson play, you know, his kind of mentor, like they were brothers, and like when he was when they were at that moment where he had to execute that guy, you know, he's like, "Come on, I'm begging you, man, do it." You know, like there's no going back. Like I'm gonna be ordered to kill you. You know.
Yeah,
but,
I do like that. Like I like the because I mean, obviously in that moment you don't know he's Ra's al Ghul. Like there's the
you
know
don't
there's
know.
the decoy or whatever. But like I do appreciate that there's like a brotherhood between the two of them.
Yeah,
because I feel like you don't see that a lot in Batman. Like it there's no like. Even like with
when
Harvey
he's
Dent,
in
where
some of
it's
those
like
moments,
Bruce
I'm like,
knows
dude,
Harvey
you're
Dent.
Qui-Gon Jinn, man. Like I see that Qui-Gon Jinn, man, when he's like getting all spiritual with them, like when he's telling him like he had a wife and kids, you know, at some point, you know, and like this is where he's at now, you know, and it's like he's kind of giving him stuff he probably never let any of the other guys know, you know what I mean? Like they don't, I don't feel like they sit around a bonfire and like let each other know what they've been up to, you know. It seems like it's pretty, you know, cutthroat, but he lends him in, you know, thinking he's gonna be, you know, his runner, you know, and he had it set up in his mind that he would bring, you know, Bruce back to like help his city, you know, eradicate it and start over, you know, and he thought he was with that. But and I thought that was kind of interesting because he actually kind of says that right at the beginning when he's in jail, like he's like kind of telling him like what he could be, and he does take that for, you know, what it is. Like he wanted to go and do something, but not what they were planning, you know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the comics, even there are storylines where Ra's like wants Bruce to essentially like take over the league, and that's an idea they kind of borrowed in Arrow as well. Because I think like I don't know if this movie explores it as much as Arrow does, but like eventually, like living forever and running a League of Assassins, it gets tiring. You don't want to do that for all eternity. And
he was telling
the
him
idea that
well, he that's what he was trying to say is like you can be a vigilante, or you could be an idea which never dies. Like in that, I think he took that and even with his when he's in the plane with Alfred and they're going over like what he's gonna do, you know. He's like, I want to be like an idea, you know, like where it can be changed or whatever, but like it remains, you know what I mean? But like he was saying, if he was like, you know, just trying to defeat crime the right way, like, you know, he could be destroyed or whatever, you know? So that's why I was saying like a lot of the ideals they put in the forefront, like they do come to a conclusion, which is like I like how smart he gets with like his movies, you know what I mean? He puts a lot of really good things and like he follows them through where like I said, you know, going from this movie to The Dark Knight, like it's pretty different, you know what I mean? Like the tone's way different, you know? And like this could have been a standalone movie. They could have ended it at the end and it would have been good, you know what I mean? They didn't have to go into this whole, you know, wrap it back with Rise where it's like, oh, Bane was part of the League of Shadows too, you know? Like I feel like they did a complete story with this first movie.
Yeah,
and I think it's one of the best versions of Batman, and getting us on Batman's side and showing the dichotomy of, again, his morals, which is something we haven't really seen them explore too much previously. Is like Batman does have a set of morals, and he says it with Ducard, Ra's al Ghul, Liam Neeson's character of, that's the difference between me and the people and my enemies. I'm not going to kill them. That's the one thing that's going to separate me from them. And it's something that's in the next movie is what's explored. That's the whole point of the next movie is, can the Joker get Batman to kill? Or, that's the whole point of that movie. Rises is kind of a hot mess. I like the movie. It's kind of a hot mess, though. But this movie is really
Rises is an entertaining but not very well written movie.
No, it's not.
The writing.
It's really
just extremely long too.
Yeah,
I think it's too long. Like I feel like that. But
and the third act is just very underwhelming. Like it doesn't stick the landing, I don't think.
What I was asking in this movie is that he has this little thing in his boot that he pushes and can like summon the swarm of bats. I'm like, why don't you ever use that again? Like he could have used that when you fought Bane. Like that would have helped a lot. Like with Bane's goons, you would have stopped a lot of them. That would have helped. But even in this movie, I think the action, in terms of like the hand-to-hand combat, still isn't great, but it's better. It's better than what it is in Rises, where Rises is really choreographed and clunky. This one's at least shot in a way that it looks pretty good still. I just don't. Nolan's not a great hand-to-hand combat action director, but everything else he directs in terms of action is pretty damn remarkable.
I like when they do that first bust though with Batman, and he's like kind of popping in and grabbing the guy and like then just going off screen. Like I like how they did that part though.
Mm-hmm. Where he's a symbol
that's
of
very much a Batman thing too. And, I wish we would get to see more. Is that he's always lurking in the shadows. So give me more of the goon is just magically removed from the equation by all different kinds of means.
That really reminds me of
Matt
Arkham
Reeves
too.
got.
Like. Yeah. Oh yeah,
like
dude.
Matt Reeves got that right in the Batman. Like
Batman
is scary as shit in the new one, and like
I know.
love that.
That music too, man. Like that dude could be in the shadows, man. I just kind of like that.
You
man.
Dread his first appearance, and that's the coolest
when
thing. That's something that the Nolan movies miss, I think.
Yep. They did have really good music though. Like. You know what I mean? Like that's such an iconic score for Batman. Great. Yeah. But I mean, I also love what they did with the Matt Reeves too. Like, I don't know what it is, but I really enjoyed the movie. And when I seen it, I thought about it like afterwards. And like, not a lot of movies make me think after. I'm like, I've seen it, it's good, and like I could talk about it. But I just thought about like, man, like there's a lot of things here that really have me thinking, I like those kind of movies, man. I'd love to see more. So
one thing about this movie, and I would love to see explored more in the Matt Reeves one, is the fear aspect that this movie touches on. Sam, you're gonna hate me for this. I think Scarecrow is really underused in this movie. I think he's great, but he's severely underused, and I forgot how little he is in this movie. And how easy he's kind of defeated in this movie. He gets a taser to the face, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's it, isn't it?
But
I'm like, it gets Rachel her heroic moment. I get that, but for me, it came too soon in the third act of her doing it.
But I also
should have seen this. We should have seen the Scarecrow, chase her a little bit more.
Yeah,
like entice more fear into her, like without the fear toxin of like, oh shit, here's a madman who is on this toxin, wearing a Scarecrow mask, riding a horse. Where did he get that horse? Why are there horses in Arkham Asylum? Who's getting this?
It sets it up. There are police horses outside of Arkham. And I think so. But it doesn't show it. But my headcanon is like Crane killed a fucking cop and took his horse. Like,
I think it's an incredible visual. Idea. I don't care where the horse comes from. It's incredible.
And the unfortunate thing is that Scarecrow is the secondary villain to this story.
Yep, it is.
The main villain is Ra's al Ghul, between just how they have him set up and the history and whatnot. So that's where I do think that Cillian Murphy gets really underutilized. I think he's great with everything he's provided. But I think
he's one of the best actors working today.
But they knew that they were going to go in the direction with more of the League of Shadows, so like I mean, ultimately they gave up him for the bigger like 3-movie thing, and that does suck because that guy, he was amazing in Quiet Place 2 and 28 Days Later. He's a very intense guy. Like I would have loved to see them do more stuff with the Arkham, Like
Yeah.
I'd be interested in that. And there was a lot of that in the Matt Reeves, so they could bring him back, and you know what I mean. They could have something there, you know.
That's what I was just gonna get at, is the fact that you know, if you were to bring back Scarecrow, if they were like, hey, we're going to bring back Cillian Murphy to reprise his role, you know, even if in the
Do
Matt
a
Reeves
J. Jonah
version of it,
Jameson thing, right?
you know, absolutely. I mean, I don't see there's any reason to break what is clearly not broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's, you know, and we know that he does crazy very, very well.
Yeah.
And to be able to play that very fine line of the psychopath, you know, psychiatrist, absolutely. I would love to see what Matt Reeves would be able to bring to those two together. I think would be immensely a great addition to each other.
Yeah, because
That was
even
one
with
thing
like
that I had.
yeah,
Yeah,
with the Riddler, I didn't necessarily like the Riddler, but like I was more interested on what they were doing with him than like the actual guy and the character, you know. So
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see, like, if they, I doubt they would cast the same person, you know what I mean? But
Probably not.
I would be interested to see the Scarecrow come back, you know, because he's definitely a character they could play, especially they could get him working with the mob too, working with Penguin, you know, or something, you know, in a bigger scheme, you know.
Yeah. That's one of my
Give us a
first
move.
thoughts about the Batman
That's
was like, wow, Scarecrow would fit really well in this world, and specifically
Yep, he would.
Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow. But like just in general, I think that character is a gold mine for whatever Reeves wants to do next.
Well, and for as much as the, you know, just Scarecrow character and whatnot, and Matt Reeves being a little bit darker, a little bit more horror-esque and whatnot, Scarecrow would fit perfectly into that universe. And I would love to see a movie where he is your main villain, to give him,
Yes.
give
that's
him
gonna be the tough one too.
give Scarecrow the due justice he deserves as a, you know, as an adversary against Batman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
you know what they
That's
gotta
why
do?
Casey and I
Joker,
stand-
man.
That's
I
why
stand by
Casey
the
and I
fact that
stand Happy Halloween Scooby Doo though, because Scarecrow is the main villain in
They
that.
use
and,
Scarecrow as the main
They like
villain. Come on.
legit use Scarecrow as the main villain. It's the coolest thing.
Yeah, a Scarecrow as the main villain would work perfect, and I think he works perfect in a like second, third, fourth movie where we can explore Batman a little bit more and what he's afraid of and what fears he might have that have come along from him being Batman. This movie does a good job, but it's already stuff we already knew about him. Like, yeah, he's scared of bats and he's afraid of like what happened to his parents and how he's going to respond to that. He didn't need the toxin for us to explore that. We already kind of got that. That's my biggest criticism with this movie, is that I love the Scarecrow, but he's kind of unnecessary for this movie, where I wish he would have been used more in another movie. I'm glad he shows up in The Dark Knight and in Dark Knight Rises. I love his appearance both times. I love that he's like the judge in Dark Knight Rises and just like killing people, like sending them out into the Gotham River just to die. Just
that's
judge,
my
jury,
favorite
and
part
execution
of that entire movie. Yeah, because it's so good. Cillian Murphy just nails it. I don't disagree with you, Casey. Scarecrow is my favorite part of this movie, but I think you take him out of this movie and it's the same movie. You know what I mean?
It is,
like, there's not a lot.
It's like they used him, you know what I mean? And like ultimately, if he wasn't there, they could have done that toxin thing without him. You know?
Yeah, Falcone and his guys do it, and that's already what it was setting up. And yeah, like Sam was saying earlier, though, I love that they're introducing like the mob stuff more, because I mean, Tim Burton's first one did, but it's around the Joker more than anything.
It's more forgettable.
Yeah.
It's once we get to these Batman movies where you start hearing about Falcone and all of them, where you're like, oh, okay, there's more to this. Again, somebody who didn't read the Batman comics, you know, I don't know as much about the mob stuff and whatnot. These really kind of shine a light to between that and like League of Shadows. Be like, oh, there's more to this stuff than just superheroes and villains. Like, there's more of that crime and everything like that. And it really delves into stuff that, you know, a lot of people, you know, like myself growing up with these here, probably had no idea of.
And I think they do that because it's not as mainstreamable as like going, you know, more with the the villains and like the superheroes, you know what I mean? Getting into like crime stuff.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, it's a Batman movie though. Like, we need to have him on the screen, you know?
Kids aren't going to buy a Carmine Falcone action figure.
And also
they're going to buy the Scarecrow one. Yeah.
And I think it also messes with what they end up ultimately rating the movie too. You know, you get into the crime and like more realistic stuff, and then you get that R, you know, and then you know, Batman's not meant to be an R-rated movie, so
no. Although
it'd
the
be
new
so much
one
fun
does
if he
push
was.
that.
It does.
I don't know
it really
if I'd
does.
take a small kid to that one because like there were moments that got me in that movie.
Yeah.
And, like I'm a massive horror fan, but like there were moments that unnerved me to the point where I was like, oh God, like.
Yeah, that movie pushes that PG-13 rating, I think, pretty hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would take anyone under 16 years old to go watch the new one. But one thing in this movie that kind of also has something that some of the other Batman movies don't have that I think is kind of a weird core element of doing a great Batman movie for me is having the weird is Katie Holmes. All of them should have Katie Holmes. That's why The Dark Knight sucks and this one's better. No. I love the random henchmen that are always terrified of Batman and always that's all it seems like they don't have day-to-day lives. They don't have kids at home. All they do is talk about Batman, and they all sound the same because that's one key element of the Arkham games too, is like you're going around Gotham and you just can listen into random conversations. They're all talking about Batman. It's like, do you guys like not watch like sports or
hey, you know,
go to different pizza plate? Like all you talk about is the Batman, and
it's
this
too
movie
dark
has
to have
that.
sports and fun things, though. You know,
Dude, I was about to say, if you live in a city
where's Batman
where there's
Day
an
with the
actual
floats
Batman,
and stuff?
They have a
if you live
football
in a city
team,
where
guys.
there's a guy dressed up as a bat running around beating people up, that's the only topic of conversation.
Right? Yeah, that's what I mean.
Especially if your employer is the supervillain, especially if your employer is the supervillain of the guy that's floating around the city, you know, trying to take you out. Like that's the only thing you're going to be talking about. At that point, sports is just like, you know, second
like,
fiddle.
Really, dude?
Hey, there
You're
was
always looking over your shoulder.
There was a full stadium at that football game. Bane blew up in the third movie. That's all I'm saying. Gotham still loves their sports.
But all those people aren't.
They were there because that's like where they had to go to hide.
Yeah. All those people that Bane blew up in the stadium, though, weren't henchmen. So they're going to talk about other things and go watch sports.
I bet they were still talking about Batman and like, you seen the bats? They all sound the same, too. Every one of those henchmen sound like the same person is voicing them. And I love it. Like, even from Burton's movie till still now with the Reeves one, you still have the henchmen talking about the bats, the Batman. And it's just, this movie has it, too, with the people at Arkham. Also, something that maybe they should have done that would have been fun, I think, in Arkham, because we spend a lot of time, maybe the most time out of any Batman movie in Arkham in this one. They could have thrown in a few more cameos, I think, in this movie of introducing some other characters. Like we got mention and at the beginning of Victor Zsasz, but I think that's we get him and that's it. I'm like, yeah, Victor's whatever.
But while they were like walking through with like Rachel, they could have like kind of showed like who was in the cells, you know what I mean? Just to kind of like just have those little nods, you know?
No, definitely. And that's where I kind of hope with, you know, when we reveal the whole Joker with Matt Reeves and whatnot, is keep him as like a secondary character locked up during the whole Matt Reeves thing. Give us different characters we haven't seen before or utilize ones better, like a Mr. Freeze kind of thing. But let the Joker stay in Arkham and be that secondary background character for a while.
He can be the Hannibal Lecter of Gotham City.
Yeah. You know what's crazy though? I was wondering how he knew who the Riddler was. You know what I mean? Like in the movie, I don't know if it was just weird editing, but like, you know, at the end when they have that credit scene and they show the Riddler and he's talking to the Joker, I was like, how does he already know him? But then they showed that deleted scene where he had already talked about him with Batman. You know what I mean? But in the movie, it almost seems like he already met him. You know what I mean? Or knew about him, you know? And I was kind of like, how did he know about him? Like, did they hand him a newspaper every day? And like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Joker keeps up on his news.
They should have cut every scene with the Joker in that movie, in my opinion. But anyway, what were we gonna say, Sam?
But I did tell you guys on our Patreon episode on the Batman, I was like, do you think the next, like this one was inspired by like Seven and Zodiac? Do you think the next one is gonna have some Silence of the Lambs types of things? where Batman's going to Arkham and talking to like Riddler and Joker and trying to get like their, and I think after that deleted scene surfaced, I think that's where it's headed. I hope so.
Well,
anyways.
ultimately, you're wasting
I don't want
his
another
time.
second Joker with I don't want a second Batman movie with Joker.
The
again.
Mad Hatter
That's
is
been done. Who
kidnapping.
cares?
The Mad Hatter's kidnapping a bunch of girls, trying to make their skin into a Mad Hatter suit. That's what the next
Oh
movie's
my
going to
god,
Yeah, that's what it is.
that's not going to be PG-13.
be. No.
Honestly, I'd be surprised if the next one is rated R, but if it is rated R, I also wouldn't be that surprised. You know what I mean? Like, Matt Reeves is so, but although he knows how to push a PG-13 rating, because like some of the stuff in like his Planet of the Apes movies is really dark too. I mean,
Well, I guess isn't it just like they
he's
use
good at
dark blood and then
navigating
it's
that.
not realistic blood? Like they just
Yeah.
make the blood like a brown, and then it's not like realistic blood, so you can get
Well, I
by
mean,
it. But
that's
yeah.
literally what they did with the new the Black Christmas from 2019 was originally going to be R, and then they were
I
like,
skipped that
well,
one,
we
man.
can't do that, so they just turned it into like black. Like they went over it and colored the blood black in digital and made it like ooze, so that it was a PG-13 movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how
It
I
was
feel
kinda
about
funny.
them keep doing like movies, like bringing back the old movies and then just kind of like retreading them again. I know it's like just a thing now in Hollywood to just keep retreading new like the old stuff because that's all people want to go out and see though. So I don't blame them, but
That's
yeah.
where
Yeah,
it's like,
it's like
you know,
you have
we're-
original movies that just flop at the box office now. So it's
Yeah,
like,
I
well,
know.
yeah,
That's the thing that
if you're
sucks.
voting with your dollars, that's what's going to happen. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I like stuff like this. It's like we have an established franchise, we have an established character, but give us stuff that we haven't seen before. You know, in like I said, you know, give us a more fleshed out. You know, if you're gonna bring back Scarecrow, give us something that's more fleshed out that is just him. There's a whole slew of characters we have never even seen on the big screen before. So you have a little bit of both. You have a little bit of originality of something we haven't seen before, but you have something that's familiar to these people. Be like, oh, well, of course I like Batman movies, so I'm gonna go see more Batman movies. I just don't know who XYZ is in this movie because I've never actually seen this before.
But the thing with the new Batman though, I don't feel like he plays Bruce Wayne all that well. So I mean, I'd be more interested to see them also kind of give us like where they're going with Bruce Wayne. I just never felt like he was really in the movie much, you know what I mean? It was just mainly Batman and then like kind of grasping that there is a Bruce Wayne there, but like he's so far from everybody that even at one point like with that Joker scene, even he's like, this guy's really similar to you more than you think, you know?
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's with the new Batman movie. I definitely think that's by design, like not having a lot of Bruce Wayne stuff. And I think that's what makes that one stand out a lot from like, because let's be honest, the new Batman movie has a lot of similarities to this Dark Knight trilogy. Like they're cut from a fairly similar cloth. But I think what makes the Batman stand out compared to like Batman Begins is Batman Begins feels almost more Bruce Wayne centric than it does Batman centric. And I feel like the Batman almost goes in the opposite direction. It's like this is a movie about Batman, but it's not about Bruce Wayne. Whereas like Batman Begins feels more about Bruce Wayne and a little less like about Batman until at least the end. You know,
that's where I think Batman Begins does a better job of the balance between the two. And I think also with the side characters, it does a great job in Batman Begins too. Of like, Alfred is a great character in this movie and a vital part of Bruce Wayne and Batman. And the introduction of Lucius Fox, who for me, that was kind of a character I'd never heard of before we got Morgan Freeman's interpretation of him.
Me too.
And having like the guy in the chair type of character for Batman now of, oh yeah, where does Batman get all this cool tech? Oh, it's from Wayne Enterprises down in the basement that no one ever visits.
With their giant like microwave on a boat. Like, oh, they stole it. Like, what?
Yeah.
What? I'm confused. Like, why was that on a boat?
That.
I'm so confused, man.
Like,
we just happen to be transporting that.
They were just, heating up a chalupa in the middle of the ocean, or what? Like, what do they do with that? Like, I'm so confused. The one thing that we're gonna use to destroy Gotham, we have that on a boat, and they stole that. Like, I'm so shocked, man. It's like, what?
We got to have a little bit of setup there. And I will say, in terms of Alfred and Lucius Fox and whatnot, and I think one of the reasons why I think Christian Bale does such a good job with what he has is the supporting cast that's around him.
Oh yeah.
To have two icons like Morgan Freeman and Michael Caine be those two supporting legends, basically, to help. Because, I mean, people knew who Christian Bale was to a certain extent, but this is definitely one of those roles that kind of helped elevate him and pushed him further to where he is now.
Yeah.
And Morgan Freeman, like I like that they added that little bit in when he first kind of starts meeting him. That like he used to be on the board with Thomas Wayne. I feel like, see, they add those little things like that just really are like, oh, well, like now he understands that like this is someone that his dad liked, and that he can
This is
trust.
somebody I can trust. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
and that's cool. I like how, like I said, I like how they set the characters up and like they really put something in there for context,
Yeah. I also forget that Rutger Hauer is in this movie until I watch it again, and then he's the slime ball. Like he's essentially like if like Roz is the first, like, the primary villain, and Scarecrow's the secondary villain. Like Rutger Hauer is the third villain there, trying to like essentially
take over the company.
Lucius and Bruce out of Wayne Enterprises, and it's a small role, but like Rutger Hauer is such a good character actor that he just makes every scene he's in pop. And I love his interactions with Lucius, especially at the very end where the tables get turned on him. I'm just like, oh shit.
Did you
like,
get the memo?
That's just two character actors just bouncing off of each other so well. And I think
it's just,
that's the beauty of this movie, is it's
really
so
quick
well
on that
acted.
point. Where he's like, didn't you get the memo? It's funny he was telling him to like do all this shit when he's fired. I would have been like, all right, well, I'm just out then, He's like, yeah, make sure you got all it on my desk, then you're done. It's like, I wouldn't even do all that work if I was about to be done.
Yeah, do you think
like,
he did it?
This great
Or
big
do you
huge
think
place,
he
you
just
figure it out.
left?
Right?
He just went to Bruce Wayne's birthday party and started drinking at like 3 p.m. That's guaranteed.
I know, and
that's what he did.
And they're over there judging him for being drunk and being belligerent, like, oh, the apple doesn't fall far from, or that falls far from the tree. It's like, you guys are like the scum anyways. You guys are just like rich people. Like, you guys are doing the things that Bruce was saying, dude. It's just like, it's tough to swallow what you are,
And I do love the fact that Bruce is like, go back to the Wayne Enterprises and do this. He's like, I'm fired. He's like, yeah, because that's really gonna stop you.
One name we haven't brought up yet, and I think we do need to bring him up, because I think
Katie
a lot
Holmes.
we already brought up Katie Holmes. We all said she's good in this movie. I think she's better than Maggie Gyllenhaal. I don't know, but maybe
I've always wondered why Rachel was always. I've always wondered why she was recast.
Because she took a broad comedy that flopped at the box office. I'm not even kidding. It's called like something like Money. One for I don't know. It's like something to do with money. Like, and it was like a comedy that just came and went, and that's the reason she didn't sign on for The Dark Knight. I'm like, Katie, what are you doing? Like,
it's Batman.
Yeah, like
it's Batman. And like, you're not going to get a better opportunity, dude.
Better than The Dark Knight. Yeah. Like,
so basically, she's like the Ja Rule of
and
of,
what's even
Batman movies.
What's worse about that too, right? Is like ultimately, they choose Rachel, right? To save, and it's like then she doesn't show up for the third one. It's like, okay, crickets. Like what? That's just weird.
The name that is not Katie Holmes that we have not brought up yet.
Sorry, I derailed it again.
Yeah, god damn it, Sam. No, the name I was going to bring up is David S. Goyer, who I think nowadays gets a lot of crap. Maybe a little warranted. I think kind of unwarranted, but like you look at his writing credits, really in like the late 90s, early 2000s, he was kind of the guy pushing forward a lot of like superhero stuff. Like he's behind, writing for the Blade movies. He even wrote the David Hasselhoff Nick Fury Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And he's like, he did some of the like, Full Moon stuff. So like he's in that type of sphere of pop culture. He understands that. And I think he's a vital part of this movie. Whereas the next two feel very Nolan, this one still feels very Goyer in that it's having a ton of fun. It's giving us payoffs that fans like. It's setting things up early on, paying them off. I warrant that a little bit towards Goyer of just kind of a pretty simple storytelling that this movie does have, where Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, kind of expand upon the storytelling a little bit. Rises kind of gets out of hand with its storytelling. This one's just a very, very simple story, and I have to give credit to Goyer on that. And he's a guy, you look at like his other movies in his filmography, like he's on the Dark Knight trilogy. He helped write Man of Steel. He wrote Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance. Shout out Spirit of Vengeance. That movie rules.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Where it starts to go downhill is like post this trilogy
BVS.
for him. Yeah, where he's doing Batman versus Superman. People like, oh yeah, what do you?
That was a
what are you
terrible
doing?
movie, man.
Yeah. And he's not done a whole lot since then. He also wrote Terminator Dark Fate.
Don't go with that movie. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's
I love Dark Fate.
But like,
I stopped watching the Terminator, man. Like I just no, it's I just can't.
Since T2, it's still not a great
T2,
movie,
yeah,
but,
T2.
yeah. T2 is incredible. Everything after that is kind of whatever. But
I don't know what we're talking about. None of these movies ever got made. There's only Terminator 1 and Terminator 2. Nothing else happened.
Right? They went back and killed him, man.
Nothing happened.
And I'm looking at what he's got coming up here too, and he's got his hands into Hellraiser and Sandman as well.
Yeah,
so, like you said, So I mean, yeah, because Sandman is for Netflix and whatnot. And I know that he's working on the story for Hellraiser.
because
we're talking about Pinhead
and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
they're gonna do another one. Wasn't there one that just went straight to streaming?
He wrote the David Bruckner one that is supposed to come out, I think, later this year.
Yep, it's in post right now.
With the traditional female Pinhead that we're gonna. I'm praying that movie's gonna be good. I really hope.
I'm praying anything that has a legacy character on it like does well, because like I don't know, man. Like when I think about it, I was really excited for Candyman and Scream, and they were like just subpar, like for me, and like I enjoy like there being a new audience and a new hype for movies, but man, I don't know. I'm trying to hold on to like them doing new stuff with old characters.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's just my personal opinion, but yeah, I don't think they're like horrible movies. It's just like it just feels like they're doing them just to do them.
This one, I feel confident in this Hellraiser just because of who's behind it, and that they're actually like, yeah, we're gonna put this one in theaters. Holy shit, we haven't had a Hellraiser in theaters since like 1990. So I feel like that's a good sign for this movie.
It's hard for me to believe that like Hellraiser was in theater. Like that's like one of those movies that's just like so out there. I would have loved to be in that time period and just been like seeing what people perceive the movie to be like. Cause like that is like one of the, like when I was a kid and I found Hellraiser, I was like, am I watching like, is this like, I'm watching something that's like, shouldn't be watched as a kid, you know what I mean? I'm like, this is
as a
crazy.
kid, it makes you question lots of things.
I still feel that way when I watch Hellraiser. Like I still am like, I don't think I should be watching this.
Gotta double check if my kids are asleep. Like, I'm gonna turn Hellraiser on. Like, is everybody good? Like,
I don't think I'm old enough to watch this.
Yeah.
Casey, you make the point about the fact that we haven't had a Hellraiser in theaters since like the 90s and whatnot, so there must be something to it and whatnot. But then we have things like Resident Evil that came out last year that probably should have just gone straight to video as well. So I mean, just because it's going to theaters doesn't mean anything.
That was one of Blake's favorite horror movies of 2021. I haven't seen it yet, but I don't know. He sung the praises for it.
The live action Resident Evil?
The new one, the
Welcome to Raccoon City.
Welcome to Raccoon City.
Man, that did not look good.
As somebody who is a fan of those games and
for
whatnot,
sure.
Is that they should have just made it. They tried to cram too much of 1 and 2 into one movie simultaneously that it did nobody justice. Like there's some great upcoming actors that could have prospered from that franchise, and they're just all like, let's just cram it together, and that's where I think they faulted.
You know what I would have loved them to do a movie on instead of just keep repeating the beginning? They should have went with like the like Resident Evil Biohazard, where like it's like that weird family out of nowhere, and like, you know, like I feel like that would have been like a more crazier movie to do, and like I feel like that's more, I don't know, I just feel like that's something they could do well now instead of just keep repeating the, you know, the beginning. I don't know, but
Yeah.
So David S. Goyer, let's sing his praises. I think he deserves it for this movie. Yeah, let's get into final thoughts for Batman Begins here. Before we get to our final question, I'll start off here. This was a fun rewatch. I hadn't watched it in a couple years. Like I said, this might be like the definitive live action Batman story. It's not my favorite. Dark Knight is still my favorite live action Batman movie, but Batman Begins should be watched a lot more, I think, for people. And like we talked about in Batman Forever, where that one gets kind of lumped in with Batman and Robin, I feel like Batman Begins shouldn't really be lumped in with the Dark Knight or the Dark Knight Rises. It's kind of, it's really its own thing
Well,
in
of
the
course it is.
Batman
It
in the
has its own
Batman
name.
movies. Yeah, he actually uses the
Begins.
goddamn Batman in this movie. Yeah, I think this is a fun movie. I said my qualms with the Scarecrow. I still think he's great. But the pacing of this movie is incredible. It's 2 hours and 20 minutes. You don't feel that at all.
No.
It has incredible pacing for this movie, and it moves at a lightning quick pace. And yeah, I'm excited to rewatch this again, obviously, in the next year or two when we finally rewatch it again. But yeah, I would give this a solid 4.5 maybe out of 5, depending on the day. But yeah, I think this is a great movie and should be watched a little bit more, talked about a little bit more. I think that's why people voted on it for us to talk about over Dark Knight Rises.
Because it's just an overall. I think that, and everybody talks about the Dark Knight, so talk about something that's not the Dark Knight. So I think that helps too.
Yeah.
No, overall, I mean, I've been a fan of this movie since it came out and whatnot. I think my letterbox, even from way back when and whenever, I think headed at like 5 stars. But that's just because, you know, as corny as some of them may be, aka Batman and Robin, I like the Batman movies. You know,
yeah, for sure, man.
For me, there really isn't a quote unquote a bad Batman movie, even if we get into like, say, Batman v Superman, stuff like that and whatnot. You know, when you have certain kind of characters that are juggling basically the equivalent of multi-personality, there's never going to be anything that hits 100%. And I think this is just, you know, the one thing that I came out of this movie is just that, you know, we were so used to the campy, over the top, quirky, Tim Burton, Schumacher Batmans, that we have a very, you know, grounded, down to earth, you know, you see Pittsburgh, you know, that's done up as Gotham City, and it looks so real that this was a nice turn to what we were used to for Batman movies. And for me, Christian Bale playing the title role, I feel was a great selection, and just everybody cast overall. There isn't, I mean, as much as people want to give crap to Katie Holmes, you know, that she herself is not even a weak link in this movie. I think everybody definitely holds themselves in this entire film across the board.
Yeah. I agree. I think I have it at about 4.5 out of 5 too. I really dig this movie. I like the Nolan movies. To me, like, it's funny. I think they're probably the best. Not the Dark Knight Rises, but these first two are like maybe the best made Batman movies. They're not my favorites. I like the campy Batman. I love Tim Burton's Batmans, especially Batman Returns. But like, I think that's the beauty of Batman. He's got such a long and varied comic book history. And I think he's one of the only superheroes that's actually had a long and varied cinematic history too. Because even Spider-Man, we've had 3 different iterations of Spider-Man, and like there are slight differences between them, but like, you know, the tone of a Spider-Man movie going into it. You know what I mean? Like there's something you expect every time. And like with Batman, now it's like kind of going the more dark and broody way, but like you genuinely don't really know what's going to happen with a Batman movie just because there's so many different directions you can take it. And I think that's what just always draws me to this character. And And yeah, I think for this movie, it's exploring things that we haven't seen before. It's doing something different with not just Batman, but with the city of Gotham. Gotham feels like a genuine character in this movie, which I think Nolan loses in the next two movies a little bit. While Scarecrow's underused, I love getting to see Cillian Murphy take on the role. And so yeah, this movie to me is like a high recommendation. It's my favorite out of the Nolan trilogy, and honestly, it might be like top 5 Batman movies for me. I really like this one. Christian Bale is great. I did this movie. If you haven't seen it in a couple of years, or if you haven't seen it at all, you should definitely check it out. But yeah, it's definitely worth a revisit because it's highly entertaining.
Joe?
Yeah. For me, yeah, like kind of what Sam kind of said too. Like when I think of this trilogy is something that I could, as a Batman fan, say like this is a solid look at Batman. You know what I mean, from start to finish. And maybe the ending wasn't as great, but I mean for when you go back to the '90s or even like because the first one was '89, but those movies they're not one thing, they're kind of all over the place, but this is a trilogy. This runs from start to finish whether you like it or not, but I think it's a well-rounded look at Batman, and it plays on Bruce Wayne and it plays on Batman equally, and after this point they haven't yet showed us something that can like be as good as this yet. You know what I mean? Like this is kind of like that full trilogy that you can go from start to finish, and there we don't have that yet on anything, so that's why I would say this would be the go-to if you're trying to watch some Batman movies. One-offs, if you're just trying to like watch a one-off movie, then I'd be like, yeah, you go back to the older ones, that they're cool, as a one-off, but not watching start to finish type thing. So I mean, to me, yeah, between this and the Dark Knight, it is kind of tough because I like an origin story, but I like to get into the meat too, and I feel like the meat is also a lot in the Dark Knight too, like getting them to killing joke, it's just very iconic Batman, and I feel like that's the kind of movie I'd want to see, but yeah, I love the origin. I love that they went with the Ra's al Ghul and the League of Shadows. I like that as part of Batman. Just I like there being like some awesome training involved with being Batman. Not just like, oh, this guy knows how to brawl, but how? Like, did Alfred teach him or what? And I also like that they spent time with Batman going and learning and trying to get on the level of like everyday people. You know what I mean? I feel like that was a really good thing that they did for this movie too, is like letting him understand, because when that first go around with Falcone, he's like, you don't know desperate, and it still was true, but like he has seen a little bit more than everybody knows, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh,
But yeah, I
absolutely.
mean, yeah. So I mean, overall, yeah, like this, 4.5, pretty close to 5. I mean, these first two movies are solid Batman movies for sure.
Yeah.
All right, then. Last question. If you guys are going to watch Batman Begins again and you're going to pair it with another non-Batman movie for an ultimate double feature, which movie are you going to pair it with?
Wes Craven's Red Eye. Another brilliant villain turn from Cillian Murphy. One of my favorite Wes Craven ones. Literally, like top 3 Craven for me. I love that movie. I think Cillian Murphy's incredible, and yeah, it's my favorite role of his. And every time I watch this movie, almost immediately afterwards, I'm like, I should watch Red Eye again sometime. So yeah,
it's
a
almost
weird
like
one,
Cillian
but
Murphy.
Red Eye.
It's almost like Cillian Murphy has this really weird ability to mesh very well with certain kind of directors. Because I think between like this and Red Eye, I think of him doing Danny Boyle's 28 Days Later, stuff like that. He just seems to do very well underneath the the right the right director.
Sam, you're gonna get me to watch Red Eye someday.
Have you not seen it?
I've not seen some of the later
Oh,
Cravens. Yeah.
shit, dude. Like, I genuinely think you would dig Red Eye. Like,
Yeah, it
genuinely
would be a
think you would dig
good
it.
double feature.
I think
for
you and
sure.
I
Yeah.
on our Craven scales are I lean towards the
The early
Early
stuff,
Craven.
the old stuff,
and
and
I
you
lean
have the new
towards
stuff.
the new
Yeah,
stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that. But like, Red Eye is a throwback thriller. Like that thing. Like, it's lean, it's mean. Cillian Murphy has great chemistry with actresses named Rachel Rachel McAdams, whatever, Katie Holmes, whatever. I tried to make a joke. It didn't work. Everybody just forget that. We're going to scrub that from the podcast.
I got what you were going for, Sam.
I think,
What you were-
yeah, like I think the tone and also if you want to see, the Scarecrow, which like got underused here, go on to do another intense role. I actually think I actually think I want to pick that too, because that's just a solid, like, you get a little bit of exposure to him. Now you want to see him do a full movie, you know what I mean? And get his
Yeah.
due. So yeah.
What do you think?
And he's great in A Quiet Place too, as well, man.
Mhm.
Like,
Oh,
he's
God,
like
fantastic.
that would be a movie I'd say to go with too, as well. Because like,
Yep,
man, he's so good in that movie.
he is. Him and Millicent Simmons just steal that whole thing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I was getting almost that Joel and Ellie vibes when they were on that little adventure, man, from The Last of Us.
Mhm. Yep. Absolutely.
I'll go with the man I talked about earlier, David S. Goyer. I'll go with another start of a trilogy that kind of goes in the same route that the Dark Knight trilogy goes, and kind of how I like the movies too. I think the first one is a really strong outing, and maybe the best version of that character. The second one's my personal favorite. The third one is kind of this hot mess that's also still watchable. I'm gonna go with the first Blade movie to watch right
Just
after.
the way you were
Awesome.
describing that, I was like, yeah, he's going with Blade.
Yeah. Blade 2 is my favorite of that trilogy,
Hell
hands
yeah.
down.
Yeah.
For
Blade
sure.
Trinity is kind of like hot garbage, but like
So
I
much
can
fun to watch.
I can still watch it because it's
Yeah.
like very weird, like Dominic Purcell as Dracula and Ryan Reynolds and Jessica Biel as these
No.
weird like monster hunters, and she has headphones.
No, man, Blade
because she
3 is
hates
trash, man.
people. It's not good. No, it's not good. I'm not gonna say it's good, but there's one line in that movie that gets me every time, and it's only because Wesley Snipes is saying it, is when he catches the baby that Dracula has for some reason. He just like looks down at the baby really dramatically. He's like, Gucci goo. And like it's incredible. So go watch it just for the Gucci
Just for
goo
that?
line from Wesley Snipes, who is not giving two shits otherwise in that
No,
movie.
no, they like
the
why?
first bl-
Why did they even go? Like, why did they even do Blade trilogy? Like, it's so bad, and like he doesn't he just clocked out. Like, I don't know why they got him to like. They should have recasted him.
The IRS was coming after him. He's like, all right, we got to hurry up and finish this movie. Let's go.
I need to get you extra bucks before they call knocking on the door.
The first one's solid, though. I think I don't watch it as much as I watch Blade 2, but I think it's like this movie. I think it's a solid, first outing and kind of the beginning of the
Good
Blade
origin.
trilogy there. Yep.
The only thing that would want them to do the original Blade in terms of like if we were to go back and tweak any of the special effects is that third act, just to clean it up, because you can clearly tell that was 1998 when that movie came out.
It's got that charm, though. I like it.
That, maybe clean that up a little bit, not go full on Spielberg, George Lucas and whatnot, but just clean it up to make it look a little bit better, not change anything, because I agree that's probably one of my favorites. I will say this is going to be a little bit of an ambitious one, but I remember when they first cast Christian Bale, there's two movies that I thought of when it came into this here, and we've mentioned in that there's a little bit of that vibe with American Psycho, for the sake of the Bateman character in Bruce Wayne and whatnot. But the other movie that I thought of where I knew it was not anything that would absolutely happen at all, but I just wanted to see it happen, is pairing this with my first introduction to Christian Bale, and that's Newsies. Because when I heard Christian Bale was cast as Batman, the first thing I wanted to do is I wanted to see a musical dance number of Batman because of
You've lost me, man. What? I've never heard
seen
of that movie.
Newsies is a 1992 movie from
Disney musical, right?
Disney musical that Christian Bale stars in. It's about the Newsies of like the kids that would sell the newspapers at the turn of the century or turn of the 1900s and whatnot. And yes, he is a singing, dancing number to the point where Newsies became a Broadway Tony Award winning musical.
Yep. God, I haven't watched that one in a long
I haven't
time.
seen it. I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, what is happening here?
What a wide list of double features you could throw on, from Wes Craven's Red Eye to A Quiet Place to Newsies to Blade. I mean, it's your choice. It's a Sophie's choice, that's for sure. For what you could watch outside Batman Begins, but. Let's wrap this thing up here. Hopefully y'all had a chance to, out there listening in listening land, had a chance to rewatch Batman Begins, or sorry, we spoiled the whole movie for you. Go watch it if you have not seen it then. But yeah, let's get to the plugs for the show here. If you want to check out our next series that we got coming up, which I guess we can announce right now, it is the Morbius series. All we're doing is talking about Morbius for 4 weeks in a row. 4 Morbius episodes. More Morbius is what we're going to call it. No, I'm kidding.
It looks like a really dense emotional thrill ride, so I'm sure there will be a lot to dissect from it. It's not just going to be horrible CGI Jared Leto.
No, but I am looking forward to Morbius because I think it's going to be awful, and I'm going to eat up every minute of that movie. But our actual next series is Mel Brooks month, so we're talking some comedy classics next month. So what do we have the first week? I'm trying to. Is it Blazing Saddles that we got?
I just looked it up. Oh my God! If we go out the gate with Blazing Saddles, that's
it. It is Blazing Saddles. So we're gonna go from Batman and Dark and Brooding to fart jokes. So let's do it. Blazing Saddles next week. The one and only Dave Holly from the Dave Holly Hour will be our guest next week. But if you want to listen to that entire series, or go back and listen to our Batman series, you missed a doozy if you didn't listen to last week's Mask of the Phantasm episode, where shenanigans happened at the end of the episode. You can go back and listen to it on Apple, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon Music, and on YouTube if you want to hear all of the good stuff that we got going on. Brian, where can they find us on social media?
They can check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd HQ, all at Backlot 605. They can also check us out, the South Dakota Film Community Group on Facebook. Filmmakers, film lovers, film enthusiasts, just people who love talking about movies. Come join the conversation there. Sam, where else can they check us out?
Well, if you guys like this and you want more, you can always check us out on patreon.com/backlot605, where we have 4 bonus episodes each month. And our Batman month on the main channel has extended over into our Patreon series this month. And we have been doing nothing but Batman movies even over on Patreon. So this week we'll be dropping a Batman Under the Red Hood review, which I just watched that last night for the very first time. And I won't tell you guys anything that I thought about it until the Patreon episode. So, but we did like Batman and Robin, which was such a fun conversation. I love that movie.
What was it though?
Nipples.
I really love that movie. I don't care who knows it. And yeah, we did a couple other ones too. Some Batman. Some like, God, what else did we do for Batman? We did the Batman. What was the fourth one that we did?
Sub-Zero, the best Mr. Freeze movie.
Sub-Zero, that's right.
Far.
That's right. Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, so Sub-Zero, a bunch of fun conversations over on Patreon. So check it out if you want more Batman in your life. Or just Backlot in your life.
Go check it out. Lots of Batman goodies. We also got coming up here on April 9th, Saturday at 6 o'clock. We have another Creature of the Night. No, not the Batman. It is Nosferatu. We are doing a screening for the 100th anniversary of Nosferatu at Average Joe's Gaming. April 9th, Saturday, 6 o'clock. And also we need to throw out as you heard on the Mask of the Phantasm episode. Mark those calendars for May 14th. Tag Team Turmoil MCU Countdown. Team Backlot 605 versus Team Wednesday Comics versus Team A Comic Book Look versus Team Best Friends. Going down again, May 14th, MCU Countdown, ranking the top 20 MCU movies of all time. Be ready for smack talk on those social medias in the next couple months. Yeah. All right. We'll save the smack talk for another time. But let's throw it off to our guests this week. Pokehon, where can they find you online, all your social medias, and your YouTube channel?
Yeah, so first off, I'm on YouTube, youtube.com/Pokehon, just like it is on the little name there. On Instagram, Staying Nerdy with Han. You can see me on Facebook, whatever, Twitter. I don't know what my Twitter handle is or not, but yeah, I'm sure you can find me. But yeah, other than that, we have an event for Voices Against Cancer, July 9th at the Washington Pavilion. Yeah.
Nice.
And who are some of the
That's
cool
awesome.
guests that you got coming for that? I know we're all pretty excited about some of the names you guys have announced so far.
Tommy Howe, he was from The Outsiders. Emily Swallow, she was the armor Mandalorian. And then we just got Miley Flanagan from Naruto. So yeah, we're getting some pretty good guests, and it's going to be a really fun event. And it's a charity event, so proceeds will go to kids cancer research. So yeah, it'll be great.
Yes,
another nerd event here in town. So
Heck
absolutely, we're very excited about that, and excited to see that event happening here in Sioux Falls. Lots of cool stuff going on, a lot of nerdy stuff going on in Sioux Falls. Thank you again so much for coming on. Well, we gotta do this again and have you back
we
on
do
to talk about some nerdy goodness, maybe some horror too as well.
There you go. Yeah, you guys got the Friday the 13th crew coming through, so that's something that I like.
For sure.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
Well, yeah, you guys know what's going on out there. So
Yeah.
Do we have anything else we got to throw out there? Do you guys have anything else you want to throw out into the ether before we sign off for this week?
Cast Cillian Murphy and Katie Holmes and more things.
Yes.
That's my final thought.
All right. That's a fine final thought, I guess. Cast them in our MCU countdown and take out the best friends. We'll take Cillian Murphy and Katie Holmes instead. Sorry, Andy, Jess, and Charlie. We're replacing you with much better people, Cillian Murphy and Katie Holmes. Sorry. Had to throw a little jab. We're gonna be doing it for the next month. You're gonna get jabs every single week. I guess let's wrap this thing up again. Like I said, next week, Blazing Saddles. Get your fart jokes ready, people, because we're going to be having a lot of them. Thank you all for listening, and we will check y'all out next time right here on the Backlot of South Dakota. Peace.